Well, hello there. Welcome to Hanging with the Hags. Well, today's another day, and I'm gonna bust out another video here real quick. So this one's gonna be a two-part video. So the first part of the video is gonna be talking about warranty issues or just problems that we've had with our RV. And part two of the video is gonna be talking about our pre-trip or pre-travel inspections or preventive maintenance items that we did this year. So as you know, or maybe you don't know if this is the first time tuning into our video, Vicki and I both retired full-time, and we are traveling in our 2023 Alliance Paradigm 382 RK. We're traveling around the country, and we're visiting friends and family and state parks, national parks, and just seeing all the places that this wonderful country has to offer. And so over the course of that time, 18 months and 10,000 travel miles, there's been several items that have failed on the RV. And it's nothing against Alliance as a manufacturer per se. You're traveling in an RV. Things are bound to happen. And so I want to put this video together. If you're a new RVer or just bought an RV and you're getting ready to head out on some long distance trips, maybe by listening to this video and understanding kind of what we went through, maybe it'll help you prepare for potential things that could fail in your RV down the road. So the first thing was an easy thing, and this was identified on day one of receiving the RV. We have the big walk-in closet at the front cap of our RV. There's the double doors going in there, and one of the doors has a latch that goes to the ceiling with a lock on it, and then the other door locks into that door. Well, that latch was already broken upon receiving, and so Tacoma RV in Fife, they had their technicians right on it. They put a wooden plate up there. They glued that, screwed that back to the door, and that lasted all of about one travel trip, and it was broken again. And so this is something that we've been dealing with the entire time that we've owned the RV. We've done the doorstop trick underneath. We've slid the bathroom rug underneath. We had a bag of coins that we put underneath. And then we had all three of those for a long time. And so the latch at the top, there's just not enough meat in the door to really do anything with that. So we ended up taking a plastic plate and mounting that up on the door with some liquid nails, and then screwed that to the door, and then screwed the latch to the plastic plate. And so far, that's been working really good. The other thing that we did just for safety or insurance is we took one of those rigid bungee cords that you can kind of manipulate and stretch, and we have that around both door handles. So in the event that the latch does fail for some reason, at least the doors aren't swinging open and potentially damaging other things. The next item was a refrigerator. So we had got to about New Mexico. We had left Washington State in December. We got to New Mexico and came into the RV, and the refrigerator was literally sideways. And so, yeah, that was a bad day. 4 hours to deconstruct and get the refrigerator out of that hole. That I do chalk up to Alliance and their engineers. They just did not manufacture that platform enough for a rear kitchen where the refrigerator is going to be bouncing down the road. And so that platform had failed. But they were Johnny on the spot, and they shipped us the parts. They found an RV tech in the area to do the repair. And it was zero cost to us. It wasn't one of these you pay for it and get reimbursed. It was Alliance owned the issue from the very beginning. And the repair was done very well. And using a good solid 1-inch piece of plywood and supporting that with multiple 2x4s, I don't think we're going to have an issue. And the rest of our trip, over 6,000 miles, no issues with the platform. And I believe that if you have a 382 RK that's probably after about December of 2022 with a build date, I'm sure that your platform is probably fine because there was enough of us that had issues early on. Okay, next item, trim and molding. That's just the nature of the beast. Not to say that these RVs are put together poorly, but it's, how many screws and how many nails and how many staples are you going to put in the molding? And over time, stuff just loosens up. So either liquid nails, or I'm using a pneumatic staple gun, and I've been able to fix all those by myself. I just pull out the molding a little bit, I'll squirt a little liquid nails behind it, and then put a couple of more staples in, and the ones that have failed are now holding. I still have a couple in the front closet. There's some odd corners or walls in the front closet, where there's some voids in there, and there's just not a lot of support back in those walls to screw things to. And so I've probably had 3 different issues in the front closet where different trim and molding has come loose, and some of what I've done has worked, and some of what I've done has not worked. So that's still a work in progress. Awning. So I had an awning that we have 2 awnings on our RV. We have a large awning and a smaller awning. On our smaller awning, I noticed one day that I pulled the awning in and the arms were binding up as they came in right at the very last of it. And so after I got looking at it, one of the pins in the awning was kind of shifted a little bit. So I went to YouTube University, and of course there's a bunch of videos out there on how the awning shifts and how to get it back in alignment. And so with the help of my son, we got up on some ladders, we unscrewed the set screw. He pushed on the awning on one side, I pulled on the other side. We got it where it looked like it was going to be back centered. We put the awning out, put the awning up, the legs all fell back into place just like it's supposed to, and we re-screwed the set screws. So again, another small issue that I wasn't going to an RV dealer, under warranty or not. It was just something that, I felt like we could take care of it after watching the video. Water pump. So this is probably something I should have probably did a warranty claim with Alliance. We were only into our full-time use of the RV for probably 6 months at this point. But we were in Pensacola, Florida, and we had just boondocked for about 4 nights, and we came on to the Blue Angels base down there, and I noticed that the water pump was leaking profusely. And so we had an issue probably 4 months earlier where the screen had just loosened up on a travel day. And so I tightened up the screen and it was fine. And we've had multiple times where we've had either the inlet or the outlet on the water pump was loose. And again, tighten it up and it was fine. But this time it was leaking in between the pump. So the plastic diaphragm that's in there was just shot. So I don't know if that was because we did have several days of sub-freezing temperatures in Florida, which, who would have thought sub-freezing temperatures in Florida, but we did experience that. So I don't know if that maybe something froze in there and destroyed the diaphragm and then now caused it to have an issue. I'm not exactly sure. But I looked on Amazon, the water pump for the identical specs was about $65. I did call a local RV center and they were selling them for about $145. And so I said, well, I could probably do a claim, go have the technician come out, do an inspection, verify that it's not working, file a claim, wait a few weeks, get the part in. I mean, it's just going to be very time consuming. So I went ahead and did the Amazon purchase. It was delivered right to the RV park on base. And that afternoon, it took me all of probably 20 minutes to pull the other one out, put the new one in. 2 small wires. It was super easy to take care of that repair. I have been dealing with some propane leaks, and part of me is like, wow, propane leaks in an RV, that's got to be bad. And I've been dealing with them for a while now, but I've kind of always chalked it up to, you always hear that the propane in the tanks, they kind of purge themselves a little bit. Maybe you're going from cold to hot and it's overheating and they're purging a little bit. And so I always kind of chalked it up to that. And then it wasn't on one side or the other. It was kind of one day it was on one side, the other day it was on the next side. And so I figured out that I actually had a propane tank that was leaking between the tank and the valve on the top. And so with the help of some soapy water, I was able to identify that. So I replaced the propane tank. And then I determined the next day that I had also a hose leaking. So I have since replaced that hose. And so actually that hose and the hose on the other side. So I did smell some gas the other day. So the only thing really left is going to be the regulator. So I looked at those. They're about $65 again. So I don't know. I'm going to let it go for a little bit and see if I can see if this fixes itself with just the hoses, or is it really the regulator. So that will be the next step. And then the last thing, so we have, they call it a belt line on the side of the RV. If you look right here, just under that black circle there, that's our exterior hose bib. Just under there, there's a horizontal line. So that's what they call the belt line. And that goes all the way around the RV. And I've had multiple screws just loosen up over time. They were really bad on this side behind the door, from the door to this front luggage cabinet. And they would loosen up at least 1/4 of an inch on a 4-hour road trip. And so I'd hit a rest area, I'd screw them in, or if we were stopped overnight, I'd screw them back in. Then I saw the hack of using a piece of zip tie, putting a piece of zip tie down in there and screwing them down. That didn't work either. So then I resorted to some liquid nails. So I threw a bunch of liquid nails in there, and that seems to be doing the trick so far. And then the other day I noticed that I had a screw on the back side of the RV that was the head was sheared off. So I don't know what I'm going to do with that one. Part of me says it'll probably be fine just to let it ride. But part of me wants to have a screw in there. And luckily enough, I found in the full body paint kit that was left by Alliance, they actually had a couple of the screws inside the bag. So, the next step would be to get someplace where I could mess with it and probably just drill out the remaining screw that's in the hole, and then put in a new screw. I think that's the next step to do there. So haven't done that yet, but that is on the list. So that was kind of part A. So part one of this video, and I'm already way over 10 minutes because I like to talk, I guess. Part two is, as you know, or maybe you don't know, we're getting ready to hit the road again. So tomorrow we head out on our 9-month road trip. We're going all the way from here, all the way to Key West and back. So, I do a lot of research and try and figure out what are some of the maintenance items that I want to do on the RV before I take off on this journey. And obviously the first thing is doing a bunch of caulking. So up on the roof, I use the Dicor self-leveling lap sealant. I had several areas on the front cap that had visible cracks that had I gotten into a rain shower, who knows where that water would have gone. So I've paid special attention to the front cap seal on the top, and then around every vent, around every solar panel, skylight, air conditioners, all of that stuff that's on the roof, I pretty much went over with the lap sealant. I used about 3 or 4 tubes of that Dicor lap sealant, which is a really good product, goes on super easy, it self-levels, and yeah, pretty good project. And I think that's going to be an annual, like every summer, just redo the entire roof, and then probably monthly get up there and just re-inspect those seams and make sure that nothing has come open at all. And then on all the vertical seams, so on the slides, both sides of the slides, and really underneath the slide has horizontal seals, front cap vertical seals, underneath where the toe part is, the fifth wheel hitch, and then really every vertical seam on the exterior of the RV. I used a marine grade silicone that was recommended at one of our Alliance rallies. And again, that product went on really well, and I found several areas that I felt where the sealant, there was a gap in it. And so again, preventive maintenance is the key with these RVs. You got to keep them buttoned up and eliminate water from getting into the RV. Wheel bearings. So I figure that the trailer probably has 12,000 miles on it. My truck shows that I've towed it a little over 10,000 miles. But somebody towed it from Indiana out to Washington the first time. So that's probably 2,000, 2,500 miles. I did notice that I had one wheel bearing that was leaking slightly. And so I took it into Les Schwab. It was about $450. It took them less than 2 hours. They pulled the wheels, pulled the bearings, re-inspected everything. They said all the bearings looked great. I did have a wheel bearing seal that had failed. They repacked it, and they said that it was time. The grease in there was dirty and needed to be done. So again, at the Alliance Rally, they recommended, I think it was 12,000 miles or annually. I know I had a previous RV that I never repacked the wheel bearings. But again, we weren't living in it full time, and I don't think I towed that thing 10,000 miles in the 12 years that I owned it. So I guess you just got to really look at how much are you using your RV and make some educated guesses there. Windows and the window track. So where we were at, lots of pine needles had gotten down in the window tracks up there. And so between a plastic knife and a shop vac, we were able to get all of that stuff out to make sure that the windows are sealing up correctly. I pulled the anode out of the hot water tank. And again, I've had multiple RVs. I've never done that before. But again, another super easy preventive maintenance item there. Remove the anode, flush the hot water tank out, and then put a new anode in. Water filter replacement. So as you know, we're fans of the Blue Technology water filtration system. I happen to have the fixed filtration system inside the RV, and we're just a fan of that product. They recommend, I think, every 4 to 6 months for replacing the three-stage system. And so we've been hitting it about every 6 months at this point, and everything's been working great. Filters come out looking gunky, so I know they're doing what they're supposed to do. Conditioning the slide seals. So these are the rubber seals that are around the 4 slides that we have, and there's a set on the inside and a set on the outside. So again, it's wiping down the seals, making sure that there's no pine needles or pine tar that's gotten stuck in there, making sure that they're staying nice and pliable. And so that's kind of a monthly thing, but I did go over it really well, last week as we were getting ready for this road trip. But really, I think that's a monthly inspection as well. Wash the outside. So as you can tell, we have the full body paint. We absolutely love the colors on this RV and like how it looks next to our truck. And it's tough when you're out there road tripping full time to find a campground that'll allow you to wash it. And so being in a location where we could actually do a good thorough washing was super nice. And then again, I've said it before, I'm a fan of just the cheap ceramic coating. I'm using the Meguiar's hybrid ceramic coating. You wash your RV, you spray it on the top of the seam, and then I usually spray a little bit of water. I let it penetrate for a little bit, and then you hose it off. And I feel that when I do go to wash the RV, things are coming off way easier than I think if I didn't use the ceramic coating. And And so, I'm just not a fan of paying thousands and thousands of dollars for a ceramic coating to not know if it's really going to work. And I've used this product on my boat before, and I've had really great luck keeping my boat clean. And so I started out using it on the RV, and again, I've been very impressed with the product. Solar panels. So we have 3 solar panels on the roof, and again, parking under the pine trees, those were pretty gunked up. So between the razor blade and some Goo Gone, I was able to get up there and just do a thorough washing of the solar panels. And then the rain gutters. So on both sides of the RV, you have rain gutters or rain tracks. Just making sure that the rain gutters are not only cleaned out with the pine needles and debris that gets stuck in there, but I had several of those where the gutters kind of meet up, and either the caulking wasn't put on there correctly and the gutters were actually leaking in the middle of the gutter system, which is not supposed to happen. So getting up there and taking a really good look at the gutters to make sure that the water is coming off like it's supposed to be. And then the last thing, and this kind of bit us in the butt as we were dealing with our refrigerator. I was on the phone with the Alliance tech for probably 4 days, back and forth between phone calls and text messages. And I was having a low voltage issue with the refrigerator. And in the end, what it ended in, typically it's something simple. In the end, what it ended up being was the electrical connection at the end of the wire in the front cabinet. So there's the battery connections, which are very visible, very easy to see. And those batteries connect to a positive and negative post. The positive has a fuse block there. And then there's another bus bar. Well, the bus bar is hidden under a plastic cover on my RV. So when the RV tech from Alliance said, hey, check your connections inside the front bay, I just assumed he meant battery connections. So as soon as I took the plastic cover off, which was closing in the fuse block, I noticed that several of those wires were extremely loose. In fact, I pulled on one and it started sparking immediately. So I knew that I was onto something. So now that's a monthly inspection. It's 2 screws. I pull that cover off and I go through each of those wires in there. I physically touch them and make sure that they're still tight. And so haven't had any electrical issues with the fridge since we discovered that. So I guess that's kind of my last thing is getting into where the battery compartment is, where your bus bar is, where your inverter is, and where your solar charge controller is, and double checking that all of those wires that are in those areas are all tightened down and stay tight. So that's about it for the video. I hope you enjoyed that. Well over double what I said I was going to be. But anyways, that's a snapshot into 18 months of ownership on our 2023 Alliance Paradigm. We absolutely love this product. We're having a great time, and we're getting ready to hit the road for another 9 months. And so if you have an RV, you can look forward to probably dealing with some of these issues if you haven't already done so. And as far as any maintenance concerns, if there's anything that I've left out, leave it in the comments. I'd like to hear what your thoughts are on things that that you think I need to look at before we head out on the road again. Well, thanks for watching, and subscribe, like, and share to help the channel, and we will see you hopefully on the road somewhere. Thanks for watching.